Hello, federal employees. Thank you for spending your day with me, a few minutes of your day, and I hope that this topic will be interesting to many federal employees because it applies to many federal employees, and even if it doesn't apply perfectly, it'll definitely change how you think about the future and the options that you might have when things get a little tight. And today I'm talking about TSP loans, where you can take money out of your TSP, but you do have to pay it back over time. And there is an interest rate, but that interest rate just goes back into your TSP account. What's not to love, right? It's like, okay, I could borrow money, I do have to pay it back with interest, but that interest I'm paying to myself. So what's not to love, right? And the interest rate is typically very low. It generally matches the return of the G fund, right? So it's basically the money you take out, the interest rate you have to pay as if you would have invested that amount of money into the G fund during that time, right? And so it can be a great way. So there's a lot of good things about TSP loans, but there's three main things that you want to watch out for when taking a TSP loan. There's good things about TSP loans, but also some downsides that you definitely want to understand before you do it. Doesn't mean it never makes sense to take a TSP loan, just saying that you want to make sure you understand the ramifications before you actually pull the trigger. So let's jump right in. And the first and foremost, one of the biggest downsides to taking a TSP loan is opportunity cost. And basically, like I mentioned, when you take money out of the TSP in a loan, it's as if you invested that money in the G fund. That's the return, because you pay interest at the same rate as the G fund would return. But does everyone have 100% of their money in the G fund? I hope not, right? I hope they don't. When you don't have your money in the market, there is always an opportunity cost of what you would have earned if you would have been invested in the C fund, and the S fund, the I fund, the F fund, in funds that would have earned money over time. And obviously those funds can go down, but when it comes to the TSP, you can't time the market, you don't know. So when your money is not in that account and ready to grow, then there's always an opportunity cost. And over a short period of time, it's probably not a huge deal. But over a long period of time, if it takes you a while, of course, to pay that back or anything like that, can be a huge deal. Especially, I mean, that money's for retirement. You're hoping to get as much as you can into that account for retirement. And of course, if things come up, yeah, use it, right? It's meant for you and to improve your life, but if you then don't have enough for retirement, then that is not a good thing either. And so the opportunity cost can be a big deal, especially as you compound that over time. And if you keep taking money out, then you might not have what you need down the road. Okay, so a big thing that most people don't get is that when they have a TSP loan, if they still have a balance on that loan and they retire, then that money, that outstanding balance is actually counted as taxable income. For example, let's say someone took 50 grand out of their TSP and they used it to do whatever, add an addition to their house or something. They did something with it. Let's say they started to pay it back and they still had, let's say, 40 grand that they didn't pay back yet, and they retire. That 40 grand is going to be added to your taxable income in the year that you retire. And so that really can bump people up into a new tax bracket, and they have to owe a lot of taxes that they did not plan for. And let's say they already spent the money, the 50 grand, let's say they spent it on something. Well, now they have to take from other funds to pay that tax bill. And so that could be a big difference, especially if you're getting close to retirement. You want to make sure that A, you know about the tax bill, and B, you have funds for it, or you just pay your TSP loan back so you don't have to deal with that. So that can be a big deal breaker. I have a few clients that have TSP loans, and either they can retire earlier or they can work a little longer so they have time to pay that off, and that affects things. That affects their retirement time, right? And so you want to make sure you understand this before you get into it, especially too close to retirement. Okay. So this next one, people talk about it fairly often, and there's some misconceptions here, but it's about double taxes. Basically, this is how it works. When you put money into, let's say, the traditional TSP, you don't pay taxes on that. You don't pay taxes. You get a tax deduction when you put money in there. And when you take a TSP loan, you actually don't pay taxes either. It comes out and your taxable income doesn't change. But when you pay that TSP loan back, you have to pay it back with after-tax money. So basically, that is when you pay taxes on that money, okay? So let's say you take 10 grand out of your TSP. At that moment, you don't pay taxes. But to be able to make 10 grand from your job, then to pay back that 10 grand and put it back into your TSP with interest, it's gonna take more money because you have to make, let's say, 15 grand. They take 5 grand for taxes, and then you have 10 grand left to pay back your TSP. So it's after-tax money that you have to use. Now, you just paid after-tax money into a traditional TSP, and then down the road in retirement, when you're looking to take money out every month, whatever, you're still gonna pay taxes on that money like you would with any other traditional TSP fund. So you actually pay taxes twice, right? And there's been some white papers written and different things written where you're not taxed on the same money twice, technically, because you take money out of the TSP and you technically pay taxes on that money when you repay it. And that's a new, fresh set of money. The money you take out is one set of money, and the money you repay is another set of money. So you have to pay taxes on both that set at some point. So it depends how you look at it, but basically, no matter how you look at it, you pay taxes twice. You pay taxes when you repay the loan, and then you pay taxes when you take your traditional money out in retirement. So you pay taxes twice, and that might not be a deal breaker, but just think about it. That's the ramification of taking a TSP loan. And like I said, these are 3 misinformation that people don't always know about TSP loans. It doesn't mean TSP loans are evil. It doesn't mean you should never even think about touching your TSP. In general, I recommend that people don't. I'd much rather they go somewhere else for those funds. Because if people get in the habit of touching their TSP, then they often are not going to be prepared for retirement. Because oftentimes, people having to take money out of their TSP is an indicator of not having the proper emergency fund, of not having the right budgets outside of the TSP. And so the TSP can be a great tool in a pinch, but as a general rule, I discourage people touching their TSP just to allow it to grow so that they have it when they need it in retirement. So those are my general thoughts. I don't think TSP loans are bad. I think in a pinch, they can be a great option to move money around, to get it when you need it. But that being said, be careful. There's a few things, taxes, there's the opportunity cost. If you retire with the balance, there's taxes as well. So just a few things that you need to watch out for. And if it then still makes sense, and it still makes sense in your mind and in your situation, then maybe go ahead and do it. So these are some of the things that you need to think about, and I hope that down the road, when you're thinking about a TSP loan, you think about these things, you run through them in your mind, and you make sure that in your situation, all the boxes are checked and you're not going to run into issues that you didn't foresee. So I hope this is helpful. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. And again, thank you for making it to the end of my video, the end of my podcast. I hope this brought value to you and your life. My goal with this content is to bring as much value to as many people as I possibly can. So please, if you can, if this brought value to you, please show your support, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, comment, give me feedback about what you want to hear about, what you want to learn about, and how you can get more value out of this, and so that I could do the very best I can to make this the best channel for my viewers, for my listeners, the very best I can. So again, thank you for being here and investing in yourself and in your future. And I will see you next week.